Conservative activist Charlie Kirk was shot and killed at a Turning Point USA event at Utah Valley University. And as of my filming this, the shooter is currently still at large. I want to express my growing feelings of dread, concern, and anger, in my own personal worries, fears, and angers, and frustrations why many trans people have been really terrified right now, especially around what's been happening with this shooting, but just as a climax of a lot of things that have been going on. No one deserves to die that way. We're going to talk a little bit more about the idea of political violence in just a little bit, so horrifying and shameful that we live in a country where this happens nearly every single goddamn week, if not ever. Violence like this isn't just allowed, it's actively enabled. And on top of that, I would be lying if I said that I didn't feel empathy and fear and sadness as I watched a video yesterday of this man bleeding out from the neck. Even a day later, my mind keeps circling back to what it must feel like to wake up thinking you've got your whole life ahead of you, only to collapse in front of a crowd of people, feeling your life drain out of you. To know that this was your last day because someone else decided it would be. I can't help but feel that, not only on a basic human level, but because it's a feeling that I can really relate to as a trans person, worrying about that same exact thing happening to me every single day in this country. Someone with a gun could just take my life right fucking now, and I could do nothing about it, and have been having that feeling linger in my mind every single day, and having people around me just not want to talk about it whenever I want to bring it up, and me not knowing how to handle that. I get it. I feel it. And I felt it looking at that video. It terrifies me. So I have some level of empathy for this, that I do not feel any amount of sadness over his death. First and foremost, Charlie Kirk was a fascist. He openly advocated fascist and authoritarian policies. The violence that ended his life is the same violence he spent his career fueling. He also pushed racist policies. He spat misogyny, fighting to strip women of bodily autonomy both politically and personally. He also supported the continual ongoing attack on immigrants that we are seeing in this country with the ICE raids and numerous other rhetoric against immigrants. He raged against Islam, calling people like Zohran Mamdani parasites and branding an entire religion as violent. He was anti-Semitic. He cheered on Israel's genocidal campaign in Gaza.
Now, while all that stuff may be true, he didn't actually do any of those things, and he didn't actually tell anybody or direct a group of people to do any of those violent things. You know what I mean? They were just his points of view on the subject. Don't get this all twisted up. I'm not defending Charlie Kirk or taking a side or anything, but there is something that I want you to be aware of, and that's what we say and what we do are two different things. Now, I want you to hear somebody else speak as a public speaker, just like Charlie Kirk, and this guy, listen to the way he talks and the things that he says, and I'm going to tell you right now, it's not what you're expecting. He doesn't use one cuss word. He says all the right things. He advocates for peace and no guns. And so what I'm trying to get at is saying things and doing things are two different things. Now, maybe Charlie was wrong for saying those things, but they're the exact opposite. Maybe the opposite is maybe he's what we needed. You know what I mean? I'm not saying I advocate for anything that he does because I don't give a fuck about any of that shit. I think we should all be Indians and go live in the fucking forest and, build a fucking teepee, run around naked and shit. I don't care about any of this shit as far as, well, you shouldn't care about my opinion on this shit. So I want you guys to listen to this public speaker. He preached things like, I can never become more than I inherently am. And he advocated for the working class and for farmers. He also, through understanding and learning, is how you get to a place of, a place above people like that. And then learning and working your way up is the way to get to where you are. Don't go against your own country. Stuff like people should work hard to exist. The other nations of the world should not be swayed by one or two or three small groups of, special interest people. They should stay at home and work hard and, live the life they decide to live. And Yeah, he preached stuff like that. It's kind of old, so it's going to look a little funny because of the way it's filmed, but it's from 1933. Oh, and he also doesn't use any cuss words, and he boasts about the people of the country never having to hear a single bullet fly by because there was no gunshots since he's been leading. Most of all, he ended his speech with that all the nations should be at peace with each other. One thing he asked the people to do was just think and be reasonable, right? Yeah, it was 1933. The guy's name was Hitler, Adolf Hitler.
Germans, my dear comrades, both men and women, my diligent German workers, I address you all today. When I speak to you today, and in doing so address millions of other diligent German workers, both men and women, who contribute so much to our nation, I believe I have a more profound and legitimate right to do so than anyone else, given my unique position and experiences. I have grown up from among you. I have stood among you myself. For 4.5 years of war, I was once again right among you. And then, through hard work, through learning, and I can say through hunger, I slowly worked my way up. In my innermost being, I have always remained what I was before. However, I did not count myself among those who, at that time, turned against the interests of their own nation. I was convinced that the fate of the nation had to be represented, or else the entire people would sooner or later suffer terribly within the state. That is what separated me from the others, who, in the critical time at the end, turned against Germany. Not only the German people, but the other nations as well, are witnesses to the effects of this treaty. The theory that the victor and the vanquished must now remain in their respective positions for all eternity. This theory led to new hatred in the world, to perpetual unrest, to insecurity, to mistrust on one side and resentment on the other. The world was not satisfied, as was claimed at the time. On the contrary, the world has been plunged into ever new disputes and ever new conflicts. And just as insane was the second thesis, that if they were defeated, they must also be destroyed economically, so that the victor would fare better economically. An insane thesis, which, however, runs like a red thread through the entire Treaty of Versailles and ultimately leads to the attempt over the course of 10 years to burden the economy of a great nation on the one hand with unbearable loads and on the other hand to destroy it as much as possible, cutting off all its opportunities. We then experienced the consequences of how Germany was finally forced to fulfill its economic obligations, to throw its economy more and more onto the export market under all conditions, and how international competition began here, how the political debt was gradually transformed into economic debt.
Wait a minute. Did he just talk about political debt turning into economic debt? Donald Trump.
It is only natural that many interested parties will oppose this. It is understandable that the organizations which have formed the two classes want to survive, and that these organizations must perish if the fundamental idea is shaken. It is understandable that they resist anyone who threatens to shake that foundation. But in the end, it must be eliminated. You cannot let a whole people perish just because a few organizations want to continue to exist. In the end, a people does not live for theories, not for programs, nor for organizations. Rather, all of these must serve the life of a people. And today we are witnessing the same thing again, but on a much larger scale. The conflict or hatred between nations is being fostered by very specific interested parties. It is a small, rootless international clique that incites nations against each other, that does not want them to find peace. These are the people who are at home everywhere and nowhere, who have no roots in any soil where they have grown, but who may live in Berlin today, just as easily be in Brussels tomorrow, and the day after in Paris or Prague or Vienna or London, and who feel at home everywhere. They are the only ones who can truly be described as international elements, because they can conduct their business anywhere. But the common people, the ordinary citizens, cannot truly follow them. The populace is inextricably chained to their ancestral land. They are bound to their cherished homeland, and they are fundamentally tied to the very means of existence of their sovereign state, their beloved nation. The people cannot go after them. The diligent farmer is inextricably tied to his fertile land. The hard-working worker is deeply attached to his rugged mountain. If either of their livelihoods goes under, who indeed will genuinely help them in their time of great need? What does international solidarity mean today? It's all just theory in a time when need cries out everywhere and nations must struggle hard just to exist. It was not the intellectual classes that gave me the courage to begin this gigantic task, but I can say that I only found the courage because I knew two groups, the farmer and the German worker. When a man makes a name for himself through his own efforts, a name that every child in the nation knows, then he doesn't need a title, he doesn't require... I came and took on this significant position with only one overarching thought, to finally put into practical application what I had consistently preached for many years. For I can never truly become more than I inherently am. But I would like future generations to one day acknowledge that I earnestly and honestly tried to realize my program. The present can offer me nothing at all. I think only of the future, and now I wanted to work diligently, and we have indeed worked tirelessly, and in these past 9 months, we have truly achieved tremendous and remarkable things. Perhaps there will be some individuals among you who cannot possibly forgive me for having decisively destroyed the Marxist parties. But my friend, I destroyed the others just the same. You are the best. I said, if you act insanely for 14 or even 15 years, you simply cannot expect someone to come along and fix absolutely everything in just a mere few weeks or perhaps a few months. If that were the case, then everyone before us would have been criminals if it were that easy.
Everybody before us being criminals,
No, I said, you have to give me 4 years. Now 9 months have passed. When I came, Germany had over 6.2 million unemployed, and now there are 3,710,000.
Yes, the guy before me was a crook, and I fixed the unemployment rates. Yes.
That is an achievement in 9 months that can truly be seen. Not a single one of those individuals who today actively incite against Germany from this particular international perspective that so vehemently slanders the German people, none of them has ever even truly heard a bullet whistle by, not even a single one. In these 9 months, we have focused solely on our own people, have studied only our own tasks, and have sought only to solve our own problems. And I believe that other statesmen would do well if they also tried to solve their own problems.
We should all mind our own business.
I declared that the German people have only one wish, to be able to find happiness for themselves. They should leave us in peace.
Well, dip me in shit and roll me in breadcrumbs. Where the fuck do I sign? And let's just do everything that this little mustache man said, right? Everything, I'm on board. Let's do this. Leave me alone. Leave us in peace. You know? Do our own thing. Work on our farms. And live life, dude. You know what I mean? This is the shit Hitler was advocating for in 1933. By the end of the World War, he had 6 million dead bodies in a pile. Okay, maybe it's not that dramatic, but something similar to that. There was at least 6 million, dude. What he was doing was he had every handicapped person put to death, right? Anybody that his lieutenants wanted, I'm sorry, they were called Pelosi, like police. They were called criminal police, criminal Pelosi, criminal with a K, and they were allowed to shoot anybody that they wanted to. The reason, you know why they put in gas chambers is because the criminal Pelosi lieutenants got so tired of reloading their guns and their hands would start to hurt from how many times they had to re-put bullets in there and shoot them and put bullets in there. From shooting people in the head all day long, in the back, wherever, for murdering people. They were so tired of loading their own guns that they wanted to economically kill these people, so they did it in a gas chamber. Think about that. This guy who just advocated for peace and for everybody to be left alone, this guy had his scientists and engineers put together the idea of a gas chamber to economically kill large amounts of people simply because his criminal police lieutenants were tired of loading their guns over and over from murdering people. Because their fingers hurt. He got complaints about their fingers hurting, so he did this with gas chambers. Okay, maybe, just maybe, somebody that advocates for the opposite of what he was advocating for when they got to power would do the exact opposite. You know what I mean? I'm just saying maybe. I mean, we'll never know, because, there's two other things I'd like to point out about Hitler and his what's going on right here. Look at everybody around him. Not a single one of those people disagree with him. They all agree with everything that he said. Every single one of them. Now, you could not get a single one of those people to get up on that stage and debate him on anything, because nobody would have a differing opinion. Everybody believes what he believes and is going to go along with what he says. Everybody in that room. At least when Charlie Kirk got up to speak in front of people, he literally had a line of people getting up to disagree with him and talk to him, right? I don't see how that's wrong. I don't see how you can look at, okay, how about this? Religion. Everybody can relate to that, right? You either believe it or you don't, right? You either believe in God or you don't. Well, how can you believe in something that you can't see, right? Well, and I'll tell you why, is because you can see evil. You can see the devil. You look at it every day and see evil every day. And this is how you know in your mind, you don't even know that you do this, but you know that if you can see something, you believe it. And if you can see the devil, then God has to exist, right? Even though you've never actually seen him, right? You have to believe that's true. Well, I believe the same thing. If something is so wrong or whatever, that the opposite of it is good. So if he is evil, then the opposite of it must be good. So whatever he's doing right here, we need to do the opposite of. And I think Charlie Kirk was on that path. I don't agree with half the shit Charlie Kirk said, but I think the fact that his ideas and the things that he said were so controversial that he literally had a line of people lining up to talk to him about it, I think would have been a step in the right direction. But again, where mankind finds a way to fuck everything up. I think the problem all begins whenever you say a bunch of things and there is not a line of people there to talk about it and debate with you or whatever you want to call it. Just have a discussion. Like when that line goes down to zero, we're fucked. Because now you have an army of people that believes in you. You know what I mean? I mean, it's okay to believe in something like pure, like a god or something, but to have a nation of people believe in your thoughts and your opinions, fuck no. I don't care how good they are. The only time any of us are, not so tainted or whatever, the only time any of us are pure as far as like inner conflict is whenever we're shitting in our diapers. You know what I mean? We're not old enough to lead a country. And like Charlie Kirk is, even if you were morally sound like he is and led the right path and didn't cheat on your wife or got married early and never had sex with her and did all the good stuff, then it's all the other stuff you suck at. There's nobody that can follow the moral path and still have all the street smarts and all the knowledge that you gain from fucking up, you know what I mean, all packed into one person that is still not morally bankrupt in some way or innerly conflicted on or against a certain group or type of person. There's nobody that can do that. Like, there's not a single person that can hold all that within them. And I guess the other thing I want to say is about the two political parties, right? Okay. First thing about politicians is, and again, I am in no way political. I refuse to pay attention to politics or even give a fuck, dude. I immediately scrub anything I've ever heard about the way politics works out of my brain by, playing my guitar or, just thinking about like titties or something. Like I scrub that shit from my brain, dude. I think politics is retarded. But one thing I will say is that a politician, his job is not to help anybody. It's not to make the America better. A politician's job is to win the campaign and get voted into office. That's why, okay, why do you think every time on a political campaign, a politician will promise something when they get into office to do the exact opposite, right? It's because they don't see, they convince themselves, just like cops do, that they had to do this to get to where they needed to go, right? Like they had to beat the shit out of you to arrest you because they were afraid or whatever. Like they morally they try to justify it within themselves, right? And a politician does the same thing. It's okay, I can lie because once I'm in office, then everything will be fixed, right? But then really they don't do anything they said, and they're not fixing anything because their only job is to get in office, right? Which is why no politicians, right or left or front or back or whatever the fuck, will ever do anything that they say on the campaign. And if they do, it's by accident or necessity, whatever. But either way, it doesn't matter. Their job is just to get into office, right? It's just to get your vote either way. So voting either way is ridiculous. And politicians, right or left, whatever, it doesn't matter what their views are. The only views that matter are ours. Okay, here, I'm going to present you with this. Okay, and we can all agree that the right and the left, the one and the two, the front and the back, the positive, the negative, good and the evil, the yin and the yang, the top and the bottom, the left and the right. Oh, I think I already said, whatever. You get the two people. One is going to say something and the other one's going to disagree or say no, or say you're a liar. But basically, so if one person says something, the other one says, no, you're lying. Right? Okay.
Somebody that is a popular meme. So the point is, please wait for more evidence, wait for the investigation, and I'm just reporting this to you because people are jumping to a lot of conclusions. Somebody unsubscribed to me. A few people unsubscribed because I said the other day, listen, we should not jump to conclusions. I do not think he's a far-right shooter. I've been tracking this. I just said, don't fall for the disinformation. And people were mad at me. So I'm going to keep reporting the truth, whether people like it or not. Let's watch this video of Nancy Mace saying that this is now a battle of good versus evil, just purely divisive.
Just purely divisive. Shut the fuck up. Now, this is going to be a mind fuck, though, okay? 'Cause I'm going to ask you guys to do something for me here in a second, right? But let's hear this.
I know we don't have a lot of time. There's so many good speakers tonight. This is a battle between good and evil. I wish we could compromise, but you can't compromise with evil. You can't compromise with evil.
Wow, really unifying language to use at the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. Joe Walsh points out, let's be clear about something. Celebrating Charlie Kirk's death is really bad. And that is not something anybody should do because that escalates the violence, it foments more hatred, and then it comes back around and somebody that you like on your side will likely be killed.
Before we get to that, did everybody just realize what happened right there, what this little kid just said? He said, don't celebrate Charlie Kirk's death because it'll lead to more violence. And then he said, at the very end of that, his last sentence was, somebody on your side will likely get killed, meaning somebody on your side will die. After he just said, don't advocate for violence by celebrating a death. Dude, this is what the politician, like this dude this is who grows up to be politicians, people like this.
Using Charlie Kirk's death to call the other side, quote, evil and declare war on the left is worse than celebrating because it's dangerous. And I totally agree. For every random Twitter account that's celebrating, there are like 5 Republican politicians who are out there calling for violence. Joe Walsh says, celebrating Charlie Kirk's death is bad, but using his death to call for war on the left is worse because it's dangerous. It's inciting more hate, more violence, and you're calling for a civil or a holy war by saying this is a fight between good or evil. This clip has been going incredibly viral because Kari Lake tries to blame college for this.
But it is good versus evil, right versus wrong, left versus right. Okay, blah, blah, blah. So if one of these persons says something, if this cat says to that, whatever, something, just like I said, he's going to say, you're fucking lying, right? Okay. So basically they're going to point at each other and say, no, you're lying. You know what I mean? So what option do you have? If you all go into one side, then 6 million people are going to die. Right? If you all go to the other side, everybody will be on that side. And that will happen too. 6 million people are going to die. Doesn't matter what they say. Once they get all those people to agree with them and follow them and believe in them, then people are going to die, right? So we know this because of history. Hitler, we just watched it, right? So what's the answer then? So we'll just split in half then, right? Nope. Civil War, that already happened. Now, my suggestion is treat it like it's good versus evil, like she said. Good versus evil, right? like your life depends on it, or like your spirit depends on it, or your soul depends on it.
Story I want to tell y'all. See, it was September 1st, 1999, the day of my death. My back was on the cold concrete as I took my last breath, and I saw my body laying on the ground as my soul hovered above it. Damn idea, he was a good-looking cat. But anyway, another day at 18 years of age, stepping to heaven's gates, anxious to see what God's got to say. Maybe he'll give me a gift for always saying my prayer, but he might send me downstairs for last year's love affair. Well, who cares? You know, right now it's all a mystery. I mean, I'll find out when I get there. Until then, I can't let it get to me. I'm keeping my cool. Besides, everybody dies. I'll just follow the white light like they do in the movies. It seemed like hours went by and I'm still traveling right towards the brightness. Now this ain't heaven or hell, this realm is lifeless. And I hate to say it, but this wild goose chase had me bored. No directions, no clues, and no idea what I was in for. But then forward I kept floating, and in a quick flash the light split directly in half and created a forked path. Representing each side was an angel. Now what's the task I have to untangle to meet the big man in charge, I asked. And the one to the right of me said, one of us always lies and one always tells the truth. Ask the right one the right question and he'll direct you to heaven. But if you ask the wrong one, son, farewell, you're going straight to well. Y'all get the picture. And the one on my left told me not to listen to his fibs. He said it ain't that complicated to find out where God lives. He told me to follow his path and tell God he said hi. Then the one on my right jumped in and told me not to believe his lies. And I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ, I didn't care much for life, but I'd have tried to stay alive forever if I knew this is what death was like. I was never good at problem solving, especially in emergencies. I get a tad bit nervous when concerned with burning for eternity. But anyways, I asked them which one lied, and they pointed at each other. Then thinking I had it, I asked them the name of my mother. One said he don't know, the other said he know, but he can't tell me. God damn, this is gonna be hard. And so I asked like 30 questions and I still wasn't sure. Then being me, I got pissed and gave them pricks a few good words. Frustrated with it all, I turned my back to the angels. And when I walked away, to my surprise, I found myself in heaven. You know what I'm saying? Kinda just turned around from the whole situation, rejecting everything that was going on. That's how I walked into heaven. I walked away, walked straight into heaven. Walked away, walked straight into heaven.
And we all have that same option to reject everything that's going on with the left and the right, the up and the down, the good and the evil. Reject everything that's going on, turn our backs and walk away. If you don't understand what I just said, I mean, don't vote, don't pay attention to politics, continue to live your life, and fuck all that bullshit. That's the only way. Every other option, we've seen what happens, we know what happens. There's no other way to do it. Get frustrated with fucking politics and get frustrated with the whole government, turn away, turn your back, walk the fuck away. If everybody did that, we'd all be free.